Tonight we have a very interesting topic we're going to discuss that over the many years of doing the work that I do as a medium, Kellee, I'm sure you as well, people have often asked what it's like when you die. Where do you go to? What is the spirit world like? Is there heaven and hell like we know it? And so we thought we'd explore that tonight because of everyone's comments and interest in that subject matter.
Yeah, we'll be your tour guides to the other side.
Tour guys, the other side. And over the years, and Kellee as well, has collected a library full of very interesting books about life after death, life on the other side, so forth. And two of the most interesting books I've ever written at classics now, one by George Meek called After We Die, What Then? Which I'm going to refer to.
After we die, what then?
After we die, what then? Right?
Okay.
And then there's another one which is hysterical, which is really factual, wonderful, which a lot of these books go hand in hand with what I've received from the spirit world as far as what it's like when you pass over. And this is called, here we go, The Beginner's Guide to the Recently Deceased.
Okay, I love that. I love that, Jay.
Really well done. Really well done.
Well, and I have one too that I just love, Holiday in Heaven. It's one of my favorites. And as you were mentioning, they all seem to go hand in hand with my experience with working on the other side.
Yeah. And one of the most common, now we had Anita Morjani on the show, talk about near-death experiences. And there are a lot on YouTube and near-death experiences. But it seems that, and Kellee, I say this for you as well to jump in and you have your experience with this. A lot of people, every single individual seems to have a different experience. So there's some people that see the light. Some people are aware of a tunnel. Some people are very free. Like Anita never saw light, but she was in the light. My friend Carolyn just passed over, kind of rocketed right into this light experience. Some people talk about just having people in their rooms, greeting them, meeting them. So some of the things we do know, right? We'd say, first of all, when you're going to leave the body, which we've done millions and millions and millions of times before, yes. It's not the first time. Remember, you're a soul having a human experience, and this time here is only relative to this three-dimensional vibration, three-dimensional world. And it's funny because there is no such thing as time outside of this box, outside of this car, right. If you will. Right. And so when you let the window down and go out, and he's like, oh, yeah, there's no time. That's limited to that box I was in. So
yeah. It's just on Earth, there's time in this dimension.
It's just in this dimension because we got to measure things, if you will. And I guess there would be I guess, Kellee, would you think there's a little bit of adjustment period depending on someone's passing. So let's say depending on the conditions that they have. So and the conditions not only of the physical body, but also of their mind, of their belief system would affect their passing when their time comes to, I always say graduate to go back home. I just think it's depending upon the situation. Not one thing I can say, and Kellee, I don't know if you'll agree with this or not, but there is no pain in death, no matter how you pass.
That's correct.
The car accident, a heart attack, a murder, a suicide, it doesn't matter. The physical body does not, because you're not the physical body. It's just
the soul has already left. Yeah,
that's right. You're that essence. Again, there's no time. And it's also, everybody, which is very interesting, is no one ever dies alone. The spirit people, your guides, teachers, loved ones who are believing in you and really are invested in your best, greatest interest, who you are, because they're part of your growth, are around you before you pass days, months of Earth.
Well, it's been my experience, I'd say 6 to 8 weeks in advance, that call goes out. So there's no such thing as an accident, or it's just no such thing. It's an exit point.
And it's interesting you say a call goes out. And I've heard that, so Mavis is often talking about this, our friend Mavis, that there's a call that goes throughout the worlds within worlds within worlds, which there are many worlds on the other side, that there's a calling. And they say calling, and I often wonder what that means, Kellee. I often wonder it's the vibration of that soul.
It's almost like a magnetic pull, James.
A magnetic pull.
It's like, okay, it's time. I've got to go. This is going to happen now. And it's it's automatically, you know it. Automatically, you understand it. Thoughts come right into you.
Well, that's just it, because thoughts are things. Thoughts are so real. You know, it's so interesting. In this world, we don't see thought, but step outside this box, thoughts are all around. And they say thought is everything. Right. And of course, there's a physical vibration, but the mental vibration right outside this world, it's all thought. So that thought goes out that this soul is coming home, and we have to prepare for it or get ready for its arrival. And there's always a reunion, always a reunion.
There's always a meet and greet, but even before the meet and greet, James, when the soul, I've had a couple of really interesting experiences here, and I'm wondering if you've had this experience as well. And this happened to me fairly recently. I had a client who passed away, and I found myself on the other side, and I saw her in a dream state, in a lucid dream state, and there she was, and she was one of my favorite clients. And she was waiting, and I said, "What are you waiting for?" And I looked up, and there was a golden train. Now, have you ever seen this golden train? It almost looked like a train that was collecting the different souls that were waiting to just take off. And the train looked like something you would have seen at Disneyland. It was like a vibrant life, and I said, like full of life and ready to take off to the next level. And I said to my client, "Don't you want to get on the train?" Because I could feel that they on the other side needed her to get on the train. And she said, "No, I want to stay and wait for my daughter." So she decided to wait. I'd not seen that one before. Are you familiar with what I'm talking about?
Not familiar with the train. I'm not familiar with that, but I will say, of course, we won't know till we pass over what that experience is like, because again, we talk about a 6th or 7th dimension and from a 3-dimensional reference point. So it's so hard for us, but because not everybody has a train, whatever that may be.
Right. And so whatever your belief system could be also, that's
right.
What would be there to greet you.
Right. So when my friend Carolyn passed over, she said, "Wow, the most amazing thing was they were all waited for me. They waited for me to come over." Now, what does that mean? Does that mean they all waited for their progression of their own spirituality to progress, to meet her and progress? No, I think that they stopped whatever their works were, wherever they were, whatever worlds they were in, to come to a meeting point. And there usually is a meeting point, by the way. There's usually a meeting point, and it could take place originally if there's a hospital room or a bedroom or one of the initial leaving of that physical is. And it could be there's a meeting point, there's a meeting place. There's also halls of orientation, and many times the soul will go immediately to a hall of orientation or reception where they see all of their loved ones again. There was one description at an out-of-body experience where a friend was telling me about this, and an old man who was about 85 or 86 when he passed, and he was in this hall of orientation, and in his mind he was an older man. He was an old man. And in this hall of orientation, they were watching him, and he was holding on to his guide. His guide held his hand, and as if this guide had this elixir in his hand, he turned gold, and the liquid went through, and he turned younger and younger, and turned to a 36-year-old man right before everybody's eyes.
Wow!
You tend to go back to the younger part of life that you want to go back to.
Yes,
that happens pretty closely, and because we're so close to our physical vibration, and we'll go through the different levels of places, but in a little while. But it seems that, and again, depending on the mindset, that everybody, because they're so close to the earth vibration, and I think there's a lot to do, Kellee, with maybe helping to orient.
Well, I was just going to talk about that, James, because it's been my experience that, let's say a soul passes from drug overdose. Let's just say from drugs. It's been my experience that when I see a soul on the other side that has had that experience, they often they go to a healing center, or they'll have a therapist waiting for them that says, "Okay, now we're going to set you over here. Now we're going to go over here and get you the help that you need, that your soul needs." So there are all kinds of ways. If there's suicide, there would be a lot of therapists or healers there to help them.
There are halls that deal with suicides. There are halls that deal with those past drug overdoses. From those people, those souls who have previously passed over that way, they understand the mindset of that drug addiction, and they will be the best ones to handle them when they first come over, because they know the mindset that they're in.
Right. Very, very true. I also found that too, James, if let's say somebody died from a fire, they were firemen and they died in a fire or something. I'll also see groups of firemen or groups of policemen on the other side that will help them as well.
Oh yeah, very much so. For some rescue, it's very, very true. Very, very true. Things that seem it's so interesting. Things that seem very dramatic here and very even like bombings and things like this. From that point of view, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't seem to upset them as we would think it would. It was an experience that the physical body had. It might affect them emotionally, mentally, but it doesn't stick with them.
Well, some of them, what I've found that they need is like trauma help. They'll go through, they have a little bit of trauma of it. and they'll go through the therapy through it. They'll go through the different healing
The halls of
places, the
healing.
halls of
Halls of
healing.
healing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they say these
What-
halls of healing are incredible. We could say mother of pearl, and they go on for as long as high as you can see. And the
Yes.
colors are very, very different there. They're astral colors. They're bright
Yes.
colors, nothing of this earth that we've ever seen before. So
Yes.
it depends a lot on your mindset. I mean, even if you had a religious mindset at your time of passing, you might find, and everything is to help people acclimate. So if someone was raised Catholic, as my mother was very Irish Catholic, there was a priest that came to get her. And the some of the see an illusion, a Jesus figure. Is it really Jesus? Well, perhaps not, but they've created that for them. They can create that with their minds, so that soul will be comfortable and acclimate to that world and feel that they're in heaven. And there are spaces and places over there, multi dimensions, and I mean, all around us are different phases and different levels of energy and different fields of energy all around us. But we're also locked into this car, this box. But outside of us, a lot of vistas. And there are many mindsets where people, the mind thinks that a Muslim heaven is the way it should be, or a Buddhist heaven, or a Catholic heaven, or born again. And they will end up in that space that other people of like minds have created. And in that space, they will have a very real place where they have churches and worshiping, and that still stays that way. But that's one of many different worlds, many belief systems.
And the soul will continue to grow and grow and grow. So the soul at that point might continue to grow, might stay with that group because it's a comfortable group for them, or they understand it. And then the soul will start to probably grow.
It'll grow in its own time and way. Yeah. Well, just like on the earth, Kel.
Just like here.
Sometimes they want to grow here, and sometimes you don't want to grow here.
Yes.
Sometimes
and that's okay.
That's fine. We all have the choice whether not to grow or not to. Same as we do here. It's very, very true.
Yeah,
very true. But it's interesting because people get so caught up in suicide too, and it's always remember suicide. The soul can never be harmed. And I think all of us have probably completed suicide one lifetime or another, just another way of leaving the body. I think suicide are lessons for those left behind as well.
For sure. And the soul may have been a contract.
And that might have been a contract before they incarnated. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's very, very true.
Yeah.
So based upon, I think, your belief system, and this is quite common, I think, the spirit people, once you're orientated over there, and everybody, it seems that everybody will go visit their ceremony, their funerals, their memorial services.
You never miss that. Yeah.
Never miss that. And I think that's their way of showing us that we have indeed, the physical body has stopped and that you moved over. And the most confusing thing is, it seems, that the soul is so alive, more alive than they were when they were living in this physical earth. And like, I can't be dead. I just can't be dead.
Didn't my mother come to you right away after she died and say, "Tell Kellee, I'm not dead"?
I'm in the airplane. And Kelly's mother came to me. I'm in an airplane from New York to LA. I said, "I'm dead." I said, Kelly, I'm not dead. Stop telling me I'm dead. Stop thinking that I'm dead. I'm not dead. And it's, they often will say that,
Right.
Because it's an insult, because they're not dead.
It's an insult.
Yeah. Yes, there is no death. Us who know better, that would be an insult, right? Even, I feel sorry for parents in many ways who think their kids are in the ground or burned up in that jar, or because they're not. That's just the physical body. It's a box they were in. Their soul, their essence of their being, never dies.
Let's talk about that, James, because you wrote a wonderful book, Children in Heaven. So let's talk about when children pass.
Yeah, growing up in heaven, and it's it was really interesting. Like when I wrote that when I was living back in Laguna Beach, about 15 years ago, maybe 16 years ago. And I walked into my office and all these spirit children were around my desk and my computer. And I'm like, okay, what are you doing here? And I don't see spirits like that often. And when I'm not working, I said, we're helping you write your next book. I'm like, They said, we need to help you educate people on the earth who believe that when children die, that's it. And they said, we don't, we just, and it's very frustrating for us because we live incredible lives. We really start living life when we leave. And all of them had different stories, that there was, like you say, some contracts between the soul group of the parents and them. There's some souls, those children want to help to teach the parents to get into a spiritual, on a spiritual path, that many different reasons. But that soul, that child's soul, it seems, and I can't say generally for every child's soul, but for the majority of them, I found that they will continue on the other side of life, going through schools, letting their soul express themselves and learn maybe things that they would have done here on the earth, learn things about the earth. They can learn languages. They can learn a vocabulary. They can learn historical things. The advantage they have over there is historical things. They can go visit the actual historical figures on the other side.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. That's fascinating. So you, on the other side, there are so many things that you can do, and you can go to concerts. You can actually go visit some of these historical places.
That's exactly right. You can visit historical figures and you can speak to them, Socrates and Moses and whatever you want to, different people. You can speak to these beings because they're not limited. They're there in a time period. And again, just like we say, well, there are those who like a certain religion that have certain heavens. Same thing in the historical. Maybe there's a society of Greece that they still have that mindset that they want to live that civilization of Greece or Rome, or even other planets, friends, either the galaxies, because you're open to other types of galaxies, other forms of life, other ways of being on the other side. And you can experience anything that you want for your soul's nourishment, And recently, my friend Carolyn passed over, said, I told this last week, but it was pretty fascinating. She was a very artistic, she is a very artistic, creative being. And she goes to a level of the celestial world, where there is all about creation of art in many different forms, and takes different forms, different colors. And she finds herself gravitating to that because that's what makes her feel, she resonates to that. She resonates that type of work. And we all go, my father went back to school. He didn't finish school here, and he was so happy to go to college and universities. And he said, not universities that you'd find here, different types of universities, more specifically generated to go to the complexities and the simplicities of the human mind. Of the mind, of the soul mind, of the human mind. But that he would be able to feed his soul with these interests in those of knowledge, of wisdom, if you will. And many people will go to, and many people learn so many different types of things. Trades work. Some people learn architecture. And the one thing I find fascinating over
big
there.
Thing with music.
They learn to play music. If they want to play music here and they were never able to, they'll learn to do it over there. You get to do things you've always wanted to do here, but you weren't perhaps able to, and you get to do that over there. One thing I'm going to say is there's a sense over there of people live their passion, and that's why it's called heaven, because you're living out your passion. So when you go to a concert on the other side, you go to a beautiful musical hall where there are no limitations, and this is something I just want to bring across, which I think is always fascinating. There's a wonderful book from Anthony Borgia called Life in the World Unseen. I mentioned it last week, and another one called More than Life in the World Unseen. And it's based upon a reverend, a Protestant minister who I guess he was in the 30s in England, and he passed. And he was so upset that he preached the wrong things about the other side of heaven that he came through a medium and wanted to get things right. And several things he spoke about was about buildings. And he said, if someone has a desire to have a certain building, a certain house, a certain way, they want to, it's all about expressing themselves. They can express that house, the size of the house, the quality of the house, the look of the house, that matches their personality, that matches who they are. It's a representation of who they are, that house. And the funny thing he said was the land around it is in perfect harmony, symmetrically, to the house. So everything is in harmony. Nothing overshadows anything. It's all in perfect harmony. See? Wow. Isn't that interesting?
Wow. So interesting.
And they talk about gardens on the other side that way beyond, man, a passion of gardens. I mean, I love my gardens here. They talk about colors and specimens of flowers and trees and the vegetation of life that we don't have in this level, that they said is the most incredible. Because remember, it's all, it's a really an incredibly, what's the word I'm looking for? That this form of life, vegetation, they all work within each other, with the light, the dirt, they call it dirt there. How they grow, it's all in harmony with each other. They help each other to grow. It's a true oneness of being. So there's a passion of that they share those elements, and they can make the best of everything. So in music concerts, I've heard those who are passionate about music, and they will get together and they'll hear, let's say, classical music, because there are many different types of music. But for instance, for example, you say classical music, and they're playing these lovely songs that many people remember here on this earth. And of course, they have the persons, that composers that created, and they'll be conducting the orchestra. And they've often talked about the notes of the music. The people in the audience feel the music, feel it, but they also see the notes coming out as colors, vibration, and they feel the colors. And I talk about the rainbows of light, of all these, and the harmonies of the colors, of the melodic, the melodies, the melodic notes coming together in perfect harmony over there. So you can imagine what a symphony.
Well, and so you're feeling it and seeing it.
You're
So
feeling
you're
it.
part of it. You're the oneness with it.
And you're feeling what the composer felt when they created it.
Wow, James, that's
And
amazing.
you're part of it. You're
Wow.
part of it. You're not observing it. You're brought into the experience. You're fed that experience in your soul.
Wow, what a soulful experience. Let's talk about our beloved animals. Will we see our animals again?
Yes. So yeah, gosh, yes. I mean, again, and again, you're talking to someone who spends every morning in the dog park.
Yeah.
I really do believe that animals are beyond humans in consciousness, and love. I think they're special guides and teachers for us here. I think we've got to be really mindful that we are sharing this space with all different types of animals and insects, and everybody has a right to be here. And I think that our animals that remember that again, if we look back at the concert I was just mentioning, at the house, the architecture that was built, so it's all done with love. It's all done with their passion. Well, everything is made from love. We are love. We're loving beings. There's no fear there. There's love. And that when those beings of love, those animals who love us, that we share love with on this planet, that loving energy comes back, will greet us. They can't wait to share that again in our fullness of our being, the fullness of our being. Because the physical part of us is not the fullness of our being. So you get enriched, enhanced, and one of the greatest, I cry, one of the greatest reunions is animals with their loved ones. It's a wonderful story I wrote about once, and I'm going to cry. It was a farmer who had this horse for many, many, many years, and the horse had a bad back, and I think it was called Nellie, and it was a broken down horse. And he came back in the spirit world, this man who passed over, and one of the first things he said was, "I've seen my Nellie. She came to greet me." And she was as if she was like this brand new, like a year old. And she came right to me and she told me how much she loved me. And that she'd never forgotten about me, that she's been with me. And they're always with us. They never forget us. They're around us. They do have missions on the other side that they do and help others. And I'm still lost, Kellee, where I don't know, because of the time-space continuum thing, they can be in several places at once. But I've often thought, well, are they doing their missions? Can they be here next to us when they're off doing their work? Mm-hmm. But the thoughts, remember, things done mentally. So when you think of them, they come right to you.
Right.
And when I was a friend of mine said to me, I said, "Where have you been, John? I haven't seen you for a while." And he said, "Well, I've been out visiting different continents of places." Well, you call them continents. We don't call them continents. We call them places or something like that. And he said, "But I'm in your orbit now because I've heard you rang out, you called out my name in your thoughts, and now I'm in your orbit. I'm surrounding your orbit."
Well, that makes so much sense, because often people will say, I haven't seen or heard from my mother or my father for years. And often it's because they are off doing so many things. They're off in their own orbit. They're off doing so many things. But if you put that thought out, it does bring them back.
Oh, totally. I mean, just like my friend Carolyn just passed, was with me every day for a week. And now lately, I'm like, "Where are you?" But she's off firing on different cylinders. She's off climbing and discovering. And who are we to hold people back from discovering themselves on the other side of life? Those aspects of their soul that they weren't able to discover here, they have to discover there to make themselves better. And in return, come back and make us better, influence us, inspire us every day.
Yes.
What they find, because they do that. And they create these lovely spaces over there. So when someone first passes over, and I've heard this before, one of the first things they do to help you acclimate is bring you to those halls of orientation, halls of healing. And many times they'll bring you to the mother's house. Now, it's a replica of your mother's house that you would remember when you were a child. And it looks exactly like it did as you were a child. And they did that with their minds. They created this with their thoughts. Because it is a mental world, you can think of it as manifested. And they do that. And they bring the soul there. Wow, mom's house. And they will keep them there for a little bit. And then the soul will slowly go into a slumber period, and that could be a life review. Then they can like go to like a dream state, and they will have like a little bit of a life review where they become aware of all the things they did in the lifetime on the earth, and they see things, feel things, understand things that they did or didn't do. And we're our own judge and jury. But they many times will bring them to a place that they feel comfortable in, just to acclimate themselves.
Yeah. And then once you get acclimated, then they often will do the meet and greet, and they'll go be with their loved ones. And
Yes.
then what do you think about when a soul, because the idea of being on the other side is always about growth, whether we're here on earth, it's growth in this dimension, or on the other side, it's growth, growth, growth. It's a constant. And of course, if you just want to sit and just do nothing and enjoy heaven, that's all great as well. But often souls want to keep growing.
Yeah, Kelly, it's up to each soul. It's up to
Yeah.
it's up to every single individual soul. I mean, as we walk around this earth right now, there are souls that don't want to grow, who believe in war, who believe in power, who believe in hurting other people. Those aren't growing. They're going backwards, if you will.
Yeah.
Because what we do, everyone, affects the other person. We're all connected. What you do affects someone. It hurts you. As you're hurting someone else, you're hurting yourself. It comes back to you because we're all one energy. We're all one jellyfish. I have to describe it. One big jellyfish, one big tapestry. And we put into those elements, those components of thought and energy, and they come back to us because we are everything we think of. And we're all one energy. We're all just one big blanket, if you will. So that's why it's not good to have the lower levels of judgment and fear and anger and hatred and murder. And that's not good. Again, I guess it serves a purpose in some respects, but it's not the right natural way of being. It isn't the natural way of being. And the Father's house, it's in the Bible says the Father has a house with many mansions. And those are the various spiritual levels from the unevolved to the very evolved levels. I'm going to go through the different levels in just a little bit.
And I was going to say, didn't Mavis Patilla, when she came to you and she talked about the realms between the realms and the
Yes, worlds within worlds
worlds
within
within
worlds.
worlds?
Because there are worlds within worlds within worlds, and you go to that world which you resonate with, and you can grow or not grow. Again, same down here. You can grow or not grow. She did say one of the things that she found very interesting when she was in the lifetime here. She said she's going to on the other side. She said, "I'm going to a society, a poet society, a poet house or a hall where they're all famous poets." And she's going to hear them speak and recite poetry. And she loved poetry here.
She loved poetry.
Yeah. So we tend to go to those places that you want to go to learn, to understand. My friend Peter's going to go learn and play the organ when he goes over there. I know I'm going to do some painting when I go over there. I want to do more, like learn different aspects of painting. I want to go to some very wise schools. Although I feel like I have gone to schools on the other side, very wise schools over there.
Yeah, I know you have.
Yeah, I think I have. I really do think I have. And it's just yeah, I it's very interesting. Carolyn, who passed over, said to me last week, and I might have mentioned this. She said, "My gosh, James, they bring you on a tour when you first come here, and they will show you." My mother, same thing happened to her. They bring to all the various levels that exist, from the very, very lowest to the very highest. As long as you get up to the highest, the one who was evolved to a certain point could go down below, but they can't go above because you've got to earn that level of being above. It also makes sense because it's the same thing with was it Tinkerbell? If you go too quick or too high, you burn your wings.
Yes.
It's like you got to go to that level that you're ready for. See,
And that's what I was talking about with the growth. Yes.
yeah, with the growth, you can't go with we're not because it makes sense. How can you go to a higher level if you don't have an understanding of that level? You wouldn't exist in that level if you don't have an understanding of it. So that's why we come back down here to have all these experiences to help us understand human nature. Yeah, human nature. There's no other place to understand human nature but here on this earth. This is where humans are. Humans are not on the other side. Humans are here. The human animal.
Speaking about that with the human nature, James, how do you feel that it works with all of a sudden we're going to go do another reincarnation?
Well, I was just reading on that. It's very interesting. I was reading a book about that, and it's so fascinating that they went into a whole thing about time is a blink of an eye, and that when you get to the other side of life, when you step, and I love this word, Kelly, which I think we've talked about before, stepping out. When we step out of the body, and it's called a stepping out. Now, there's I think I told you this. There's that movie, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once.
Yes.
It was on last year, won some awards. And I think that's why they use the term stepping out from one life to another life. And I kind of like that term, stepping out, because there is no time when you step out and you get back home in the spirit level, spirit world, and you're like, oh my gosh, that was the blink of an eye at the time on the earth. It was not easy, but I grew. So they say, and I just read this, 10 years. So this is interesting. A decade of growth in this earth is equal to centuries in time. So the growth here on this physical earth for a decade of growth can be equal to centuries of time. Isn't that interesting?
Wow.
Just read that
Really
in one of these
interesting.
books. Yeah.
Oh my
Again, because the
gosh.
concept of time is so different. And the impact of those experiences are so strong that it can move things really quickly. And that's why souls tend to come back to this earth. And listen, there's so much more to it than just this earth. So we are here to help and to move things forward for everyone, not just ourselves. And because we're so sensitive beings and empaths, it tends to feel more, see more, and sense more. The most important thing is, of course, we have to observe, not absorb. Observe, not absorb. And because we want to help people and we're sensitives and we tend to be very empathetic, we want to take it on, and we should never take it on.
Yeah, I always say try to make as much light out of the darkness that you can.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Now, it's very interesting because I know when people talk about guides, physical guides, I've written about guides. And so, my mind changes about things as well when I go through things. And we tend to look at guides on a higher level of vibration, right? Teachers and knowing this. But I also want us to think about ourselves as guides and think of our higher selves as our number one guide, because it's our highest self, our celestial being, who could be really one of our best guides in that they know
our higher self absolutely is the best guide, I would think. But also there are many souls right now on earth that when they get to the other side, they will be guides because they're doing the work here to help others. So on the other side, we can choose to have jobs or do things to help humanity, perhaps on earth, or to help the souls on the other side.
Yep, and many times your loved ones who pass over are your guides. My mother, I'm sure I know your mother has been a guide of yours.
Please.
My mother became a guide of mine. I asked a medium. I said, "Why is she my guide?" She doesn't feel she did not feel physically in the world, so she wants to help you now spiritually. So that makes sense. Now, Carolyn said, she's on this slide, she goes, "James, I want to help these people." I said, "What do you mean?" She goes, "They're walking around like sleepwalking, and they're like rocks. They don't have any life. I need to share with them that there's life, there's animation." She goes, "I got to teach them. I've got to teach them." So she's going to be a guide to those lower level beings, if you will, who are unaware, if you will. She wants to do that. And one of the things she wants to do, of many things, of course.
Wow, well, she'll do a lot of things. She had so much energy here. I can only imagine the energy she has over there. James, what do you know anything, or can you speak about the Hall of Mirrors?
The Hall of Mirrors. Well, there's many different halls, first of all, but Hall of Mirrors, from my interpretation, Kellee, would be the halls of reincarnated of the lifetimes of seeing your soul and the different aspects of your soul in other lifetimes. That's what I've heard. Or the different aspects of your soul. That's what I've understood it to be.
And would that be a place to think? Well, I was thinking about if you wanted to have, let's say you had some very special memories while you were on Earth and you really wanted to recreate that. I've always thought that Hall of Mirrors, that's where you would go to recreate some of your memories that you wanted to have again, just so you could have them again.
Your memories are there, right? The memories are there. So you can go the Hall of, I'm sure there are many names for it, Hall of Reflection, Hall of Mirrors, where you can go and those memories are there. You can reach back at those and get those. I've done that in past life regression. A lot of people, you go back and you get memories of other lifetimes that are significant to this current lifetime. It happens quite a bit. Yeah. So there's a couple of things I want to read, if I could. It's from this great book, The Guide for the Recently Deceased.
Recently Deceased
by David Staume, Staume. I had this book for many, many years. And I just want to read a couple of things, if it's okay, because I wouldn't be able to say it. The most obvious difference between the astral and physical world, because the world beyond the physical is called the astral world. And it's a very solid world, very colorful world, very much like this world, but more vivid, more colorful. Buildings, gardens, your loved ones are there, and it's a very real world. They say the most obvious difference between the astral and physical world is the light. It's because the light is so special here that this world was given the name Astral, which means starry. Oh. So everywhere you look, there's an Iridescence, it surrounds and permeates everything. So much that if I told you everything here was made of mother of pearl, you might even believe me. Astral matter not only bathes in this light, it also generates it. Astral matter is less illuminating. We got less illuminating. And now astral matter is less illuminating. It is also transparent to the light, somewhat at a warp speed. There are no collisions in the astral world. It's simply not possible. And don't believe anyone tells you otherwise. Everything passes through everything else and does so constantly. The only impediments to normal zooming are the planetary boundaries and our self-imposed limitations, or ciliums, we call them. The planetary boundaries restrict us to Earth, and our ciliums restrict us to the boundaries of our thought. You'll often see people walking sometimes long distances on the ground purely from habit. Similarly, you'll see people walking through doorways where they could just as easily walk through walls in the astral world. If you think something just as a body of water or wall of flame, it is an obstacle, it will be. So your thoughts become realized on the other side. But you have to remember that it takes a little bit of training or orientation, that now you're in a world of thought. The astral world is a mental world. This is a physical world. But that's a mental world. It's a very thoughtful world. So we have to remember that.
Yeah. Wow. This is so interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
I remember when my father passed, he was in a university like that. And I got to see where he was experiencing, just getting acclimated again.
Yes, getting acclimated. The different levels or phases of spaces or worlds. They say the physical and the earth world is at the bottom, right? Then we go to the lower astral world, which is exactly like this world, but again, finer material, the light permeates. And then there are the middle astral worlds, a little bit more refined, if you will. At the lower astral worlds, you might feel still like you have to eat something. It might be a sense of, I still have hunger or an appetite. And eventually that'll burn itself out. Same with alcohol. You might be an alcoholic who passed over, an addict, some kind of drug addict, and you might feel you need a fix. And you can have a fix. You can take the pills or drug yourself or shoot yourself or drink, whatever. And it'll have that feeling that you remember because you're in a mental world. So the memory of it stays the same. You won't have the physical reaction from it because you're not in the physical world. So it'll just be a memory of the condition. That's interesting. And then you'll eventually find out you can live it out. You burn out that memory of needing it so much. So you don't need to have that. And then you're able to move on to other higher, more refined ways of being. And you go to the upper levels of the middle astral worlds. Again, everything is more refined. Then we go to the higher astral worlds. Then we go to the causal or mental worlds. And then finally the celestial planes, which is a very spiritual, highly evolved places that we go to. Yeah. So,
wow.
And I gave Renee a little bit of a chart earlier. I don't know if Renee, you have that chart. How do we get to so the celestial worlds, those higher spiritual worlds. So this is taken from the book here. And there you go. That's it.
It's a going steps up.
Going steps up. You can read that, Kelly, if you can.
It says the first is seek first the consciousness of God, the creator.
Right. So first in your mind, have that sense that there's God, you want to call it God, the universal mind, that there's something else there. That's the first step, having that awareness or expansion of consciousness. And then the second step is
learn to know your real self.
Yes, for their own self be true. And it's funny because I said to people recently, I can only hang out with people who know themselves, because otherwise they're searching for someone that's not them. And you can only go to head if you know who you are. Yeah.
Yes. And the next step up is love others.
Love others, because that's that energy that permeates every life force. That's our life, that prana, love others. Yeah.
Oh, and the step after that, I love this step, show compassion.
In every way you can. And I tell people, show compassion every day. Whenever you put in a position, a situation, especially when it's in a bad one, like, if someone yells at you, whatever, say, I send you my love, or, good for you. I send you love. Just send love, smile at them, send compassion, because boy, if they only knew what they were putting out into the universe by being angry and upset, they would be. And we have to feel sorry for them in a way, have empathy, because if they knew better, they wouldn't behave that way.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And after that, it's radiate kindness.
Yeah.
Kindness goes a long way.
Kindness goes a long, even if it's a smile, even if it's complimenting somebody, show kindness. It's a lack of it now, isn't it? So we need to do that.
Oh, James, practice patience. It really is a virtue.
It's a virtue. Can't push the river, let it flow. You can't push the
I
river, you
know.
got to let it flow.
Oh
It's
my
going to
gosh.
happen when it happens. And we're joking because someone that was in the hospital and said, well, you're a patient. And that word patience, isn't that interesting? They
Right.
call it patience when you're in a hospital because you have to have patience for the body to restore itself. Patience.
So true.
And,
And
with patience, that's you have to realize people that, you can't control other people. You'll have patience when you realize that you can't control others. You can't control what's going to happen. All you can control is how you respond to something. That's true
yeah,
patience. And it's going to be what it's going to be. Don't make it more than what it is. It is what it is, and that's all that it is. Don't make it more than that. So be patient about it. Everything happens in its right time. So I'm here trying to sell my house right now. And it's going to happen when it's going to happen. I'm not in a rush because it's going to happen in its right time. I think everything, Kelly, what do you think about this? Everything happens in its natural time.
absolutely. You can try to push it and make something go. It just doesn't work that way. God, it's a waste of
Yeah.
energy.
It's a waste of energy. Exactly.
Patience is
And
everything. And then
yeah.
share with others. That's a great one, James. Share with others as we
Yeah.
get higher
Share
up
with
on the
others.
steps.
Yeah, because it belongs to all of us. I have a nice little house here, and people say, "Wow, you shouldn't leave this house. It's nice." And I said, "Well, it's nice, but I hope you're enjoying it." Yes, but why would you bring strangers to your house? And I said, "Well, what's the point of having nice gardens and stuff if you don't share it with people? It's here to
You've
share."
always been a sharer, James. You've always been a sharer. Always.
But don't you want other people to have a great experience, right? Don't you
Oh,
want others to experience
absolutely.
your experiencing? I mean, that's the joy
Absolutely.
of all of us to have
Yeah.
things that we others can share. That's why we wear nice clothes and we go out in parties and we look nice because we want others to feel good about what we're wearing, or we feel good about ourselves, and in that, and others will feel good. That's why we do that. Music's the same way. We want people to feel better. Yeah,
Absolutely. Then continue to grow mentally. That's so
yeah.
true.
So
Constantly growing and
expansion.
expansion. My favorite is the top one. It's to serve others.
Yeah,
And
this is
that's
how we get higher and
ultimately
higher.
how we get higher and higher here. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
how we get to the higher levels. The higher levels of spirit is those are the steps to get to the higher levels of the celestial, the
Mm,
spiritual planes, if you will. And of course, with those steps are many steps as well. But those are the main steps to get up to the higher level of spiritual,
yeah.
the causal planes.
So much to
Get
look
to help.
forward to on the other side.
So much to look forward to in this. It's very, very true. And each day is a blessing. Each day is different. Never take each day for granted. Every day is a new day, and yesterday's happened, tomorrow's yet to be. And be that example in the world that you want to put out there, what you want the world to be. Be that light.
Absolutely. And James, you have something coming up this weekend that's very important.
I do, Kelly. Thanks for mentioning that. I'm going to be doing a healing grief workshop. I for many years, obviously, worked with grieving people, and there's all different aspects of grief. Whether it's leaving a child, leaving empty nest syndrome, going to school, getting married, a divorce, changing jobs, losing a loved one. It's all the types of grief, and a lot of people don't know how to grieve. So I'm going to do a workshop Friday night and Saturday online, and it's going to be about based on my book Healing Grief, different aspects, different exercises about grief, looking at it from a different point of view, helping yourself, giving you various ways of working with it and moving ahead and with it, not honoring it and being part of it. And yeah, that's Friday and Saturday. It's on my website, vanpraagh.com, and there is right there is a link right there too.
Oh my God, that's
And then
great.
Kelly, you and I have something coming up, which is very
We have
exciting
something
for everybody
coming
who's
up.
listening. And
Very exciting. We're going to be in Chicago together,
everybody wants to
everybody.
get together for
Yeah.
Chicago.
At a live event. So
Chicago,
it's,
Chicago.
it's going to be so fun. I love Chicago. And I love
Yeah.
Chicago with you. We always have a good time in Chicago.
We
And
always
it's an
that's my
Eastern
flight to
spirit.
Chicago, I think, right? No, that's what I say was Alaska, of course. My
Last time I
66.
saw you in San Diego with COVID.
With COVID,
But
that's right.
that was hilarious. But Chicago's going to be great. Join us July 25th if you can for a live event
It's a
with us.
limited
We're
amount
going
of
to do,
tickets, everybody. So come and get
yeah,
it because
and we're going to do a
the
meet and
VIP.
greet, I think.
Yeah, we do a
Yeah.
meet and greet. We're doing 2 or 3 hours of messages and meet and greet, and so please come see us in Lake Forest. How far is Lake Forest from downtown Chicago? Do you
I
know?
think 30
I don't think it's
minutes,
that
maybe
far.
40, 30
Yeah,
minutes. I don't know. I only know from Los Angeles time how to get to somewhere, but it's not too far.
It's very, very true. That's very, very
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
And then you have something else coming up Thursday, right?
I have my show, Ask Me Anything. I'm going to be talking about sacred contracts. So please join me.
That's great. So Kellee, when you pass over, what do you think level you'll be on?
Well, I'd like to be, I'll tell you what, James, I'm going to go right to the top.
There you go. That's my girl.
First, I want to do a lot of art like you. I want to paint. I love to do art, and I love birds, and I want to see my animals, and I want to do all of that and my loved ones, and want to get together with my mom. But I feel like I'll be serving others, because I've seen myself on the other side so many times with the jobs that I do on the other side, that I think that's what I'll be doing. What about you?
You know, the feeling what you're going to do right away, to which Carolyn actually did when she first passed over, was learn how to use, harmonize with the animal kingdom and to use them to bring signals back to the living.
I love that.
I have a feeling you're going to learn that right away.
That's going to be my favorite. I have such a birdie. I love that.
I feel that with you. Yeah, definitely. Carolyn did that. I think a lot of people do that when they're when they first get over there. And I don't know how it works, whether it's magnetic energy or so forth, whether they get educated about that, but I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll be happy just to go over there and say hello, everyone.
Right.
I miss people. You know, you get to a point in your life where you realize, wow, more of my friends and loved ones on the other side than they are here.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. Yeah. Very, very interesting.
Oh, so all right.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Kellee. Thank you, Renee.
Thanks, James. Thanks, everybody.
Until next time. Okay. Bye-bye.